For centuries, it has been locked in a state of slow, inexorable collapse. Each year, a fraction more. For a time, the world simply watched, waiting for the day it would finally surrender. This is not merely the story of a leaning tower. It is the story of an error that became a legend, of a city that sought to touch the heavens, only to discover, in the hardest way imaginable, that the heavens were not the problem. The problem was the earth beneath their feet. Today we see it as an elegant, white, almost weightless structure. But the truth is, this form was never the design. It was not born this way. It became this way. In the beginning, Pisa was a name that commanded respect. A maritime republic, a vibrant port teeming with ships, merchants, and wealth. But above all, it was a city of immense pride. In the medieval age, Italian city-states did not compete with currency and armies alone. They competed with stone, with cathedrals, with public squares, with towers. Because a building was never merely a building. It was a message, a challenge, thrown down to time itself and to all who would gaze upon it. And on this precise spot, in this square, Pisa decided to add a new monument to its complex. A tall, magnificent bell tower, visible from far out at sea. A regal, functional masterpiece, conceived to dominate the skyline and complete the city's sacred heart. But before it was the perfect manicured lawn we know today, this place was different. It was not an orderly garden, but a vast, living, sacred space, humming with activity. The great Duomo, he was just beginning its ascent, another construction site growing slowly toward the sky. All around was beaten earth, raw materials, wheelbarrows, scaffolding, and blocks of stone. Men at work. Not the calm of a postcard, but a place that rang with the sound of hammers, of voices, of dust hanging in the air. It was here, in the middle of this religious heart under construction, that Pisa chose to raise its tower. Not for beauty alone, but for identity. And so, in the year 1173, the first stone was laid. The tower was born as a campanile, the voice of the city. It was what called the faithful, what warned of danger, what celebrated victory. It was a presence that had to command its space. The problem is that sometimes the ground is not ground. It is a compromise. It is soft, unstable, deceptive. And when you rest a giant upon a foundation built of optimism, nature does not argue. Nature simply presents the bill. The most unsettling part of this entire story is that the tower did not wait to be finished before it began to lean. It began almost immediately, as it was being built. Imagine the scene. The blocks of marble rise, the walls grow taller, and then someone notices a line that is no longer true, a strange sensation underfoot, one side that seems imperceptibly lower. Herein lies the first great paradox of the Tower of Pisa. The higher the structure rises, the more perilous its existence becomes. And the more perilous its existence, the more essential it is to see it through to completion. To leave it half-finished would be a monumental public admission of failure, a scar on the landscape and a wound to the pride of a powerful maritime republic. So what does a city do when its grandest ambition begins to buckle? What is the response when the very dream you are building starts to yield to the earth beneath it? Do you abandon it, or do you press on? Pisa chose to continue, but it did so with fear in its heart. with doubt, with hesitant attempts and constant, desperate corrections. The tower ceased to be a simple construction project. It became a living work site, a challenge that breathed across the generations. There is a near tragic poetry to it. You begin a life's work with the full knowledge that you will never see its end. You lay a single stone, a small piece of a future you can only imagine, knowing your name will never be etched into its conclusion. You are but one hand in a multitude of hands, a single link in a chain of human endeavor stretching through time. And all the while the world does not wait. Life grinds on. Politics shift. Allegiances crumble. Periods of war, of tension, of economic crisis bring the work to a halt. Each pause is a double-edged sword. To stop building is to grant the tower a reprieve, a chance for the volatile soil to settle and compact under the immense weight. But to stop is also to condemn it, leaving it exposed and incomplete, its famous inclination a visible wound for all to see. Yet it was precisely within those long, silent pauses, the decades, not enough to render the tower secure, but just enough to permit humanity to try again. When work resumes in the year 1272, the builders cannot pretend the flaw does not exist. They must coexist with the lean, incorporating it into their very method. And so they attempt something extraordinary. They try to correct its trajectory as they build upwards. They seek to compensate, to rebalance, to coax the structure back toward the vertical with the sheer force of Archetin, a heavy sea. One miscalculation, one step too far, and everything is lost. And yet, the tower continues its slow, arduous ascent. Each new level is a testament to human obstinacy, a declaration carved in marble that they will not surrender to the forces of the earth. Then, after nearly 2 centuries from the laying of the first stone, the moment arrives. A moment none of the original builders would live to see. In the year 1372, the tower is completed. The belfry is set atop its crown, its clean arcades and fresh stone gleaming as if it had just left the mason's hands. It is done. But it is not perfect. It is born flawed, already leaning. And here, a strange alchemy occurs. Instead of being perceived as a failure, it is hailed as a miracle. For it stands, against all logic, against the unceasing pull of gravity, it endures. And that pull never rests. The tower is already inclined, so every year the immense weight of the marble works in the same inexorable direction. The more it leans, the more difficult it becomes to arrest that momentum. For centuries it remains in this state of suspended tension. Its celebrity is born not only of its staggering beauty, but of this perpetual, visible struggle, this constant state of near catastrophe. It is a monument not to perfection, but to persistence. A silent conversation with gravity that has lasted for ages, its very flaw becoming its most profound and defining feature. For centuries, its lean was a curiosity, a geological quirk, an architectural spectacle. But there comes a point when a curiosity is no longer charming. A point when the angle of inclination grows so great it becomes a genuine threat. And then, something that seems impossible happens. Humanity decides to save it. We are not speaking of centuries past, of Renaissance patrons or medieval builders. We are speaking of yesterday. In the year 1990, the doors are closed to the public. The risk is no longer an abstract idea. It is a number, a calculation that predicts a catastrophic collapse. And in the early 1990s, the true modern struggle begins. A battle of wits and steel that will last until 2001. It is a slow, surgical war, waged with one paradoxical objective: to save the tower without straightening it. To save it is a difficult verb here, for you cannot save it by making it normal. To straighten it completely is to kill the very thing that makes it unique. Yet to do nothing is to risk losing it forever. You must perform the most delicate act imaginable. You must heal it without ever changing its face. A new kind of warfare commences, fought by nerve-wracked engineers with instruments aimed at the tower day and night. Sensors measure every millimeter of movement, a constant electrocardiogram charting the life of the stone. Every fissure is monitored, every vibration recorded. This is not restoration. This is an attempt to halt a slow, almost invisible, yet relentless motion. You are not supporting just any building. You are supporting a legend. They try different paths. Some are brilliant, others disastrous. For a time, they add immense lead weights to its base, as if trying to pull it back with the brute force of mass. In another phase, they work on the earth itself, extracting small quantities of soil from one side, millimeter by painstaking millimeter, coaxing it to settle back slowly, without a jolt. And then there are the attempts that are terrifying even to contemplate. Interventions so aggressive they increase the risk, a reminder that with a structure so fragile, the slightest miscalculation can change everything. And while the experts toil in silence, life outside continues, a world away. The tourists arrive, the laughter, the photographs, and that one universal gesture, the hand that holds up the tower. A comical scene, played out by millions who pretend to save the monument with the palm of their hand. And behind this simple game lies the profound truth. The tower truly was being saved, not with a hand, but with decades of relentless, invisible attention. It is here the story takes a strange and beautiful turn. For the Tower of Pisa becomes a global symbol precisely because of its flaw. We live in a world that demands the illusion of perfection, a world where if something is born crooked, it is hidden, corrected, or discarded. Pisa, instead, became eternal because its error was never hidden. It was confronted, carried to the very top, and then, with the greatest of care, it was protected. And as it stands, motionless now, seemingly suspended in time, it seems to whisper a simple truth. One does not need to be perfect to become eternal. One only needs to remain standing, especially when everything is pushing you to fall.